Bismillah, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du. How are you everyone? So today in this video, I will be doing a basic HTML and CSS tutorial. So first I have prepared this VS Code folder. Here I created a folder named IT, HTML and CSS tutorial. So before I start, what is HTML and CSS? So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So it's the standard markup language for web pages, like when you open a browser and you browse something, you open a website in the internet. So that website is created using HTML. It's the language. So HTML, the structure of an HTML file, it contains tags that is structured to create your web page. So we're just gonna start making our HTML file. So first, create a new file named index.html. So the name index.html is the standard name for like the main HTML file for a website, and most like maybe servers or services usually automatically opens the file named index.html in a folder to view as a website. So in this index.html file, we can just type this and click enter. It will automatically create the basic structure, which is doc type HTML, the HTML tag, and then the head and the body, and then we can change this title into maybe HTML tutorial. So the function of this title element inside the head element is to set the title or the name of our HTML page, so it will be visible in the tab. So we can view this by clicking on the HTML file, select show preview, and then you actually need to install an extension called HTML preview. Yes, live preview. So if you haven't, you should install it. So here I have the preview on the right. So as you can see, the title on the tab is HTML tutorial, like we set in here. So in HTML there are many tags you can put in the body, but in this tutorial I'm just going to explain some of them. The first is h1. So h1 is short for heading 1, so it's like the biggest, most superior type of heading. So if you type something in here, heading 1, it's gonna appear big, bold, and yes, very big and bold. And then after h2 there is after h1 there is h2, which is also a heading 2. It is smaller than heading 1 because it is heading 2. And then there's also heading 3, h4, h5, and the smallest is h6. There's no h7, there's only h6. So in h6 is like this, it's the smallest heading. And then after headings we also have P, which stands for paragraph. So inside these P tags, if we type something, for example, Lauren, gonna appear like a normal text, like a paragraph in here. Okay, and then after the p element, there's also an image tag which is used to show images. So before you can show images, you need to have an image file inside the workspace folder to make it easier. So I'm gonna find an image real quick. Wait a second. Okay, so now I have an image I can paste in here. Wait. Okay, so now I have this image, and I can type in the src src attribute of the image element the name of the file, which is this, and this alt attribute is used to show a text if the image failed to load. So for example, if I type an image and then I put some error in this src attribute, maybe I delete this letter, so the image is not showing because the file name is not right. It will instead show the alt text and image. Okay, so here as you can see, we have this image in our page now, which is, yes, it is big. The size depends on the image size, the actual size of the image. So now I'm just gonna delete this. And then after image, there's also video and audio, but I think I'm not gonna show it here now. Okay, so next, for the HTML tutorial, maybe only this two types of elements, h1 and h, headings and p. So next, I'm gonna show you CSS. So we're gonna create a new file named style.css, which will contain our CSS code. But before we create any CSS code, uh, there are actually three ways we can insert our CSS code into our HTML page. Okay, so the first way to insert your CSS code is inline, which is inside the file and inside the first tag of the element that you want to give styling to. So the way you do this inline method is to add a style attribute in the opening tag of your element and then give the styling, for example, color blue. So this color blue declaration, CSS declaration, is inserted using the inline method inside this h1 element. So as you can see in this preview here, the heading 1 text is now blue. Okay, next is the next method is internal, so it's still inside the file but not in each element. So the way we do this method is to add a style element inside the head, and you can enter, and then you can put your CSS codes in here. For example, using the h1 like before, I'm gonna add h1 color orange. Okay, so as you can see in the preview here, it also works. The heading 1 is changed to orange using the CSS internal method. So it's still inside our HTML file, but it's inside the head and inside these style tags, style element. And the last and the most, uh, I personally think it's the best way, is to use a separate file which is called the external method. So the way you do this external method is by using a separate file to store your CSS codes with the file ending .css. So here I've created a file named style.css, so I can try with the h1 like before, color green. Yes, but as you can see in the preview, the heading one is not green yet. That's because I haven't linked the CSS file in the HTML code. So the way you can do this is by typing link. It will automatically put this rel attribute with the value of style sheet, and then inside this href attribute we type the name of our CSS file. In this case it's style.css. Now as you can see, the heading 1 is green because we have successfully connected this HTML this CSS code for our HTML file. Okay, so for this CSS tutorial, I'm just gonna show you some of the most basic CSS declarations, CSS attribute and values. Yes, so for this tutorial we're gonna give stylings for the p element, which is this one, this lorem ipsum. Okay, so the first is we are going to give it a display block. So this display block is used to make our uh, text or paragraph in this case. It will the size of it will fill the entire width of the viewport or the place that it could fill. And then we're going to add color white. white. So the function of this color one is to change the color of our paragraph. So in this case it is white, so you can see it like this, but you can see it if I block it like this. So in order for us to be able to see it, we can also add a background. For example, green. So now our text has a green background and a white color, so we can still read it. Next, we're going to give it a width, of 200 px. So now, as you can see, this width, uh, this width 200 px gives our paragraph a fixed width, so it ends here. It doesn't go all the way here anymore. And then after width, we can also give it a similar one, which is height. We're gonna try giving it a 40 px. So now the height of our element is also fixed to be this high, so it doesn't fill until the text is until the end of the text. It just cuts right here, but the text actually still overflows to the bottom, so we can give some more height. for example ATPX. So now this is kinda higher, but to fix this overflowing issue we can add another CSS declaration, which is overflow y auto. So now as you can see, there's a scroll bar on the right side of our text here. So now we can use it to scroll down, up and down, so we can see the entire text part at a time. And then next, we're also going to add a margin of ATPX. So now this margin, the function of this ATPX margin is to give spacing between our element and the objects around it and everything else around it. In this case, it's now spaced away from this left border and the heading 6 on top of it. And then we're going to also add a padding of, I'm gonna give it 20px. So now as you can see, the function of this padding attribute is to give our element a spacing between itself and the objects inside it. In this case, it's between the edges of this box and the text inside it. So now there's some spacing here, it's not really on the edge anymore. And then after that, you can add a border with the value of 4px. The type is solid and the color is black. Now as you can see, our element now has a border around it with the color of black. The type is solid. So the way this solid type works is that if we change it to dashed, for example, it now looks like this. So it's just the style of the border. And then this 4px is the width or the thickness of the border. So we can change it to 40, for example. Now it's like that. You can also change it to 1. Now it's really thin. You almost can't see it now. So I think 4 is better. And then next, I'm going to add a border radius of 8px, for example. So now as you can see, the borders of our element is not sharp 90-degree anymore. It's a little bit rounded, and then we can add this value, for example 16. Now it's even more rounded, as you can see, like that. Maybe 12. Okay, but as you can see, there's a little issue here. So this scroll bar still appears to be overflowing. It's not cut with the border, and we're not going to discuss the solution in this video right now. So next, we're going to add text align center. So as you can see, the function of this is to align our text to the center, like in document applications. As you should have already known, this is how it works. It's now centered. It's now aligned on the center, not on the left anymore. And we can also change this to justify, for example. It's now aligned to be justified right and left, so it's stretched to fill the entire space. There's also text align right. Now it's aligned to the right, like in Arabic. So text align center. And then next, I'm going to add font family, the value of sans serif. Now as you can see, our text has the font family of sans serif, not the default Times New Roman lookalike anymore. Yeah, so that's very simple. Then next, I'm going to add font size with the value of maybe 20 px, 40 px, and that's too big. 30 px, okay, maybe like that. So as you might already know, the function of this is to change the size of our text, so it's not the default size of a p element anymore. And there's also some uh, like preset keywords for this, which is large, or maybe there's also small, so you can also type large here. Okay, next and last is font weight. I'm gonna add 500. Oh wait, it can maybe bold. Okay, as you can see now our text is bold. So the function of this font weight is to change the thickness of the text. Okay, so maybe that's all for the CSS tutorial and also the HTML, simple basic HTML and CSS tutorial previously. So thank you so much for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.